Okay, hello. I want to apologize, guys. I haven't uploaded a video in a while. I actually needed to step away. I had to do a lot of journaling and really just take some time off to decide what model I was going to trade going forward. So after some time, after some studying, I have completed my developed model for my personality. This model for me allows me to compensate for a lot of my personal flaws and issues, such as how I see the market, how I get impatient, how I deal with FOMO. And it's structured around a lot of strict rules. And it's also derived from ICT's video called One Setup for Life. I took the London raid from that video and applied a lot of those rules to my overall system, and it's helped me so much to be less impatient, and it's allowed me to be more conservative in my approach and how I observe setups. Okay, so I've been doing this for a couple weeks now, just this developed model. And my model is revolved around weekly profiles, weekly and monthly draw and liquidities, as well as the London session raid for the entry, right? That's where the execution is going to be derived from. And I use that to get in line with whatever the weekly or monthly draw is. But I can do a breakdown of the model itself at another time. Basically, I've been doing this for a couple weeks now, and last Thursday was when I was able to actually get an execution and come out with a nice trade. So I want to go over that trade from last week. And again, this is from Thursday. We had FOMC meeting minutes on Wednesday, but that's not an important news event for me. So I came in on Thursday to trade CPI. All right. So what you're looking at right now, on the left we have the ES, and on the right we have NASDAQ. And very simply put, I told my group that I was observing this setup right here. So price dropped into this weekly imbalance and then exited on Wednesday at the external liquidity, which is the high of September 26th. Which was a Thursday, okay? But if you look at that same type of behavior on NASDAQ, price did the same thing, drops into the weekly imbalance, but on the same day, Wednesday, we did not get above September 26th high. Okay, so I was expecting price to continue going higher so that we could at least get above the high of September 26th on NASDAQ, and then pretty much have a symmetrical market, between these two assets. Going into Thursday, per my rules, I do not execute before 9:30. So what I want to show you is just like candle by candle how I observed the setup, and then I'll show you the recording at the very end. So I'm dropping down to the 15-minute, and I'm just going to fast forward through London till about 6 a.m. And I'm just going to pause around 6:15, 6:30, around there. Okay. This is about 6:15, okay? So as far as an intraday basis, the first thing I want to do is I want to mark out the high and low of London, and I'm going from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. So what that's gonna we'll start on the left here. This is the low of London, and that same low is here on NASDAQ, and then we'll do the high from 2 to 5:30. This is the high here. All right, so with these levels marked out, ideally I want to see one of these areas get raided and swept, and that would be the ideal trade to take it from like one side to the other. So for example, if price was to break down here and I see some SMT, then I can trade it back up to here. Okay, that's basically the gist of the London raid. Vice versa is true. If price was to take out the high, then I get my entry variation, I'd be looking to take it down to the low of the range. All right, but a filter that I use is not trading before 9:30 under no circumstance. Okay, so let's walk through this, and I want to show you what happens because the 7 to 7:15 time is very important. So I just want to show you how that looks here. So right now I'm looking at about 6:10. So let's go ahead and go to. All right, this is really interesting. So take a look at this. At 7 o'clock on the dot, price sweeps the low of London session on both markets. Okay, this is a nice entry. There is an entry in here. Actually, I'm just going to drop down to the 5-minute because I normally look at all this on the 5-minute. Okay, and you can see that you have an entry in here, right? There's an entry on ES. You can see there's some SMT here where NASDAQ does not go into this 1-minute imbalance, and you can trade that to the other side of the range. Okay, which I believe that's exactly what happened here. All right, so the entry was here, taking it up to the high of the range. Now here's the thing, look at the time, it's 8:10. So even though that was a very decent trade, right, very simply put, looking for a raid on London session and then taking it to the other side of the range, I didn't trade it because it's not 9:30 yet. Plus, we've got CPI at 8:30, okay? So I also don't trade before any high impact news. So let's see what happens at 8:30, which is just a few candles away. Here is 8:25, one more candle. Okay, here's 8:30. All right, as you can see, both sides of the range get swept pretty hard, right? Just one big sweep to the high and in the same candle to the low. But let me show you what it looks like on the 1 minute. If I go to the 1 minute, all right, we do have a hit to the high first. And then even though we swept the low, we do come back to fill this gap right here. And you can see that on both markets, right? There is an imbalance here that gets hit. This is also a potential entry that you can take short. But per my plan, the time of this entry is 8:32. So yes, it's after news, but it's still before 9:30. And this is really important because by doing this, guys, I've been able to observe trades happen without me being a part of it. Then when it's my time to trade, to still be able to get an entry, it's really helped my psychology, and it's overall helped me understand that I can actually relax and enjoy trading. Because if you guys look over my channel, I've been doing a few different approaches as far as ICT. Like, it's not necessary. It's really not necessary. ICT has 81 ways to get into the market. I am not ICT. I will never be ICT. So I'm at ease with knowing myself and understanding that I only need one model, right? And just some good rules, and just stick to that and follow those good habits. So taking a look at this, we're going to remove this drawing here because we're not worried about this here. What I'm focused on is 9:30, right? That's when I'm allowed to look for entries, okay? My range has already been hit on both sides, okay? If that happens, per my rules, I now look at the high and low of news itself. Originally, the trade was like this, all right? You could wait for a sweep of one end of the range, right, London's range, and then trade it to the other side. But if both have already been hit, then you look at the more broader, newer range, which would be news low and news high, okay? The other thing that I have here, I'm just going to go out to the 4-hour chart. I meant to show you guys this. There's this 4-hour gap, all right, on both markets. This was formed at Wednesday after the 2 p.m. candle, right? So this was already here going into Thursday morning, okay? News, CPI, tapped into that. So going back to the 5-minute, we tapped into that 4-hour gap. You can see that here on NASDAQ as well. The next thing that I'm watching for is I'm watching to see how the 9:30 open is going to react to the imbalance. So let's go ahead and go forward. All right, this is going on 9 o'clock. Okay, now prior to market open, we have this low at 8:40 on both markets. I'm just going to mark that out. It's very important. And I'm still not doing any trading, right? Waiting patiently for 9:30. All right, here's 9:35. Okay, 9:35, we start to we're just stuck in this little consolidation. And right here at 9:45, price breaks that low, which was made at 8:40. Okay, from here, the only thing I'm looking for is for this to be a potential breaker. So in order for this to be a breaker, we need to get above the last up close candle before the run down. So for me on both of these markets, it's here and here. I want to see a closure above those levels. After some time, I get that closure, and I actually entered on the 1 minute, okay? So I'm going to show you that in just a second, but first I want to show you how that breaker looks. So if I'm looking to go long here, what do I have in terms of confluence for a good trade? The first thing is we have a breaker forming inside of a bullish 4-hour gap. We've already taken out the low of news. So the only other area to take out or go after is the high, which is here, right? The high of news. Also, we have higher targets on NASDAQ. So remember in the beginning of the video, I was talking about price leaving a weekly imbalance and going after the weekly external liquidity at the high, which was on a Thursday, September 26th, okay? So I have narrative and context. Even if it's wrong, I have a narrative and context that I can replicate going forward, okay? So I'm just going to drop down to the 1 minute, show you the entry. My entry was on ES, and the entry came in right in here. So I took this 1 minute gap, and I'll show you the time on that. It was here, not here, because this is still below the breaker. It was this one right here. I needed to see that breaker form on the 5 minute. My entry was right in here on the 1 minute. So this was at 9:59, just before 10 o'clock. Now, here's the thing. I'm going after 2R here. Originally, like, yeah, you want to get above the news high, but I didn't want to put my stop loss all the way below here. It would have been nice if I could, but a stop that big, I would have never got 2R. Like, it's just way too big. So I compensated by doing this little thing that I do now. It's not really a trick or anything, but I took a previous swing low right here, and I'll make it red so you can see that. And I put my stop just underneath that low, and then I targeted 2R to the upside. It would have been nice to go after this high, right? Because that was my original target. But guys, I don't even reach for the stars anymore when it comes to liquidity. I more so just focus on 2R because I'm just focused on getting the base hits. So let's kind of just dial this back. I'm gonna go back to the 5 minute after showing you that, right? So just again, my entry is here on this gap. I'll make that a different color. All right, this 1 minute imbalance right here. Entry came in at 9:59. My stop just underneath this old swing low here because I did not want to cover for the whole breaker. And I'm going after 2R, which is just below the news high. But I will show you what I did when I watched this play out. So back on the 5 minute, you can see this is what it looks like. We're going after this news high. I'm just going to hit play. All right, price did pull back a little bit. Fortunately, it did not stop me out, but you can see right there how far it came back in drawdown. Again, my stop is down here. Price started pushing higher. Now right here is where things get really interesting. So here's the news high, and then here it is on NASDAQ. You can see it's already been hit on NASDAQ, yet it was not hit on ES. When I saw this happen, I closed my trade on ES because NASDAQ just wasn't willing to go higher. I looked at this as SMT as an indication to get out of that long position, okay? So I actually closed my trade near this high right at 2R after seeing NASDAQ was unwilling to continue higher and ES just wasn't gonna get up there. And you can see price just turned around, started going lower, okay? So I was able to get to R. I did record it, and that was my breakdown from this trade. I will do a longer video of the model itself, but here's the recording of that setup.